Today I've got a huge update for you on this tank right over here. This is my UNS 45U, and today we're finally gonna add some fish, and we're gonna do the first big maintenance session, and it's gonna be chock full of little tips and tricks that are gonna help you keep your aquarium really, really beautiful. So without further ado, let's get started with adding the fish. So I waited a good 4 weeks before adding fish to this tank. Number one, because I wanted to make sure that the beneficial bacteria in the filter was significantly established and stable. And number two, because I wanted to get through the diatom phase. Scrubbing diatoms off of every inch of your hardscaping glass is not exactly fun when you've got a big school of fish in there. So I went to a local store here in San Diego, California, and I decided to go with a school of the very beautiful Celestial Pearl Danio. This is one of my absolute favorite nano fish, and I went with the CPD because of the color of its body as well as its small size and proportions. I wanted to go with something that had sort of like a brownish look to it because I thought it would accent the wood color really nicely. I really like how the green of the hairgrass pops and the blue LED background pops, so I didn't want to add another bizarre accent color to that. So I thought the very natural looking trout-like color of the CPD would work really well. So let me walk you through exactly how I acclimate new fish to an aquarium. This is gonna go for fish that are not super duper sensitive and that are coming from water that is somewhat similar to the water you're keeping them in. So I picked them up from the local store here in San Diego, and I asked, do you guys keep them in tap water? Is it RO? And they just so happened to keep their fish in tap, so I knew it was coming from TDS and water chemistry that was very similar to mine. That said, I still wanted to err on the side of caution, so what I did was I set up a little container on the side, and over the course of about 45 minutes, I add a little bit of tank water from my aquarium to the container every few minutes or so, and this will get the TDS and the water chemistry, the GH and the KH, slowly equalized. And what I do is I take a reading of my aquarium at the beginning of the process, and I take a reading of the bag water that the fish came in, so I know what I'm working with. And then once things are close, I would say like plus or minus 20 to 50 TDS, I feel pretty comfortable adding the fish. Now, if your fish are coming from a temperature that is drastically different than the temperature in your tank, you might also want to float the bag in the beginning to kind of equalize the pressure. It's really going to depend on the ambient temperature in your room and where the fish are coming from. Anytime you add new fish to an aquarium, usually they're gonna be shy for at least a week or two. And these guys are no exception. Now, I was really happy to see them exploring the tank because there's no other fish in here, so there's really no predators, and there's enough of these guys where they feel comfortable in numbers. So fast forward about 2 weeks and you can see that these guys are feeding voraciously, which makes me really, really happy. In the beginning, they were quite shy, but just through some basic conditioning, feeding them at the same time, and I always shut my filter off when I feed, they kind of develop that cue. It's that sort of Pavlovian conditioning. So next step would be to add some shrimp. But now that these guys have been in here for a couple weeks and they're well established, it's time to do that big maintenance session that I've been waiting to do. So as you can see, my glass lily pipes and the tubing are absolutely filthy. They're covered in diatomaceous algae and mulm. So the first thing I'm gonna do is remove the glass lily pipes and show you how I clean these with the bleach technique. So whenever you're doing a big maintenance session like this is a hide your wife, hide your kids type of situation. You don't want to do this when you've got a lot going on in your house. So get ready to head over to the sink. What I always do is I take 2 plastic containers. One of them are going to be soaking the lily pipes in the bleach solution, and the second is going to be for dechlorinating the cleaned lily pipes. So let's get that first container set up, and I'm going to add all of my glassware as well as my CO2 diffuser, and then I'm gonna create a bleach solution. Now, you may remember this saying from science class, do as you water, add acid to water. So we're gonna do exactly that. You always wanna add the bleach to the water, not the other way around, so that it doesn't splash back in your face. So I'm gonna fill this container about 20 to 30% water, and then I'm gonna fill the remainder with a strong bleach solution. Make sure you do not get splashless bleach. I've made that mistake. It kind of coagulates and doesn't homogeneously spread out throughout the water. You don't want that, and don't get any sort of scented bleach. Just get like your local store brand of regular ass bleach. And then you want to give these guys about 20 to 30 minutes to soak. So while they're soaking, I'm gonna get back over to the tank and do my maintenance. So now that the glassware is off, it's gonna be really easy to scrub the sections of the glass that have been a little bit hard to reach. So the basic order of events you want to adapt when doing big maintenance sessions is do the least disturbing things first, first, and then work your way up to the things that are gonna disturb the tank and cloud up the water the most. So we're gonna start by just using the razor scraper to clean the glass, and I always find this process so satisfying. I go through very methodically, I work the calcium stains off the top of the glass, and I sort of look for any diatomaceous algae stains or green algae stains. Fortunately in this tank I don't really see any signs of green algae, so it's mostly little remaining spots of diatoms. And then once you're through with your razor scraper work or sponge or whatever you want to use to clean the bulk of your glass, I go through and I do the details. So you never want to use that razor scraper on the silicone seams of the tank. So for that, I'm going to go through with a toothbrush, and I'm also going to use my soft bristle toothbrush to reach any little sections that were impossible with the razor scraper. This is a situation where you might have to scrub a little bit, take a step back, check out the tank from another angle, and really just work your way throughout the entire surface area to make sure it is spick and span. And now for the last step, we're going to make a little bit of a mess, and we're going to scrub our wood. And whenever I'm scrubbing hardscape, I love using an electric toothbrush. It just makes the process so much easier, and the electric toothbrush does so much of the work for you, so you don't have to use too much elbow grease and risk disturbing any of your hardscape. So once that was complete, I drained some of the water, removed some of that suspended debris in the water, and be careful not to suck up your fish. And then once enough water was drained, it was time to refresh the cosmetic sand path. So this is something I like to do every few weeks. What I do is I siphon off the top layer of sand, and then once I'm down to the soil level, I add cosmetic sand with a little cup that I have here. And you just want to be very, very delicate throughout this process. Take your time. And once that was complete, it was time to address the vinyl tubing. But before I headed over there, I decided to head back over to my sink and scrub my lily pipes now that about 20 to 30 minutes had elapsed. So you definitely want to wear gloves. And I have a big assortment of these spring brushes that I use that ranged in size from super duper tiny to large enough to clean the vinyl tubing. So I go through and I make sure all the gunk is out, but thankfully with this bleach soaking process, it does a lot of the chemical work for you. So you're essentially just pushing things out that have already been broken down. And once I thoroughly clean and rinse everything, I drain the bleach out, run it through with clean water a bunch of times, and then I transfer everything over to that second container I mentioned earlier. And this is where I soak the glassware, and I add a bunch of dechlorinator so that we're gonna get rid of any sort of residual chlorine that is still left in the pipes. While those are soaking, I'm heading back over to my tank and I'm cleaning my vinyl tubes. So this is where I'm going to use one of those larger spring brushes, and you just wanna dip it in a little bit of tank water or a cup of tap water, and you wanna go in and work your way as deep as you can possibly get, and then pull it out very gently, not too fast or you'll get sprayed in the face with some nasty detritus. So I usually do that about 3 times in and out, and I get very good results that way. And you'll see that once the process is complete, your vinyl tubes will be see-through again and sparkling clean. So once that process was done, it was time to begin adding the water back, and I have this little shark bite system. I've got an entire video on how I put together this water fill system, so you can go ahead and check that out if you're interested in building your own. It's very low budget and makes water changes very, very convenient. So I use my little shark bite tap to begin filling the tank very slowly, and then it was time to get the clean lily pipes back on. So very delicately and gently, I add those puppies back on, and it's already so good to see them nice and sparkling clean. And once the tank was filled up, it was time to turn that filter back on, get the CO2 back on, take a step back, let the water kind of clear up, and observe my beautiful clean tank with my beautiful CPDs. So let me know what you think about my fish choice in this aquarium. I'm a massive CPD fan, so I'm really enjoying these guys. I feel like the colors are great. And now that the tank has undergone a really big maintenance session, it's just about time to start fertilizing this tank. I usually like to wait about 4 to 6 weeks, and I believe we've hit approximately the 6-week mark. So I'm gonna start fertilizing ASAP, and we'll see how the plants respond. But I am happy to say, even without the fertilizer, they're looking quite beautiful and vibrant. I just think the ferts are gonna up their growth a little bit and get us ready to do that big trimming. So if you like this video, if you found any of the tips I provided helpful, please go ahead and like it and subscribe to the channel. Even share the video if you can. A little channel like mine, it's very hard to break through with that algorithm. So your support is very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys and gals next time. Bye-bye.